Your beta readers said that your story felt preachy. And you know what? They were right. The tricky thing about the theme is that while you do need one, the moment that your readers can see it, it stops working. The problem isn't so much your theme per se, the problem is more that nobody has ever shown you the specific moments in your story where it needs to live invisibly. In this video, I'm going to show you the 4 key story moments that do exactly that, and once you see them, you'll never write a preachy novel again. If you're new here, hello, my name is Julian. I lost my voice a few weeks ago and I'm slowly recovering. I hope this won't be a deal breaker for you. Other than that, I am the creator of the Story Pillars Method, a storytelling framework based on best-selling novels to help you write a first draft that won't collapse in revision. I built it because I spent years trying to write the novel I had in my head, but it was always either too much action or too much introspection with nothing really happening on the surface. So if you'd like to learn more about the method, then do subscribe to the channel. Quick heads up, today is part 2 of a 2-part series. If you already watched part 1, then of course, do let me know in the comments. But if you haven't, then don't worry, you don't need to follow along today. Isn't that nice? I do encourage you to check it out afterwards if you want to dive a little bit deeper. But for now, let's get into it. The first key story moment is the moral complication. Now, before we dive in, one thing you need to understand is that the theme of your story is composed of 2 things. The first one is what we call the moral need. You see, every story has a truth at its core. A moral question is asking the reader. Something like, does real belonging come from the family you were born into or from the value you choose to live by? Or it could be something like, is sometimes walking away from a relationship, even if the other person is a good person, the most loving thing you can do? And here's what makes the moral need so important. As long as your characters don't understand it, they'll keep making choices that hurt themselves and the people around them. So with that in mind, the moral complication is the first moment your story tests the first half of your theme equation, the moral need. It's the moment that puts that question directly in front of your protagonist through a situation, a concrete choice that forces them to take a side. That's how the theme gets shown rather than stated. And it happens rather early, right after your protagonist has answered the call to adventure and been thrown into the new world, when everything around them is unfamiliar and the rules of this new reality are still being established. That's the moment, because when your reader is still figuring out this new world alongside your protagonist, you can plant the moral question right under their nose and they won't even notice you've done it. Let me show you what this looks like in Harry Potter. In Harry Potter, the moral need is around belonging and worthiness. More specifically, it's the truth that real belonging comes not from bloodline or destiny, but from the value you choose and the actions you take. So what's the moral complication? The sorting hat ceremony, right after Harry has entered Hogwarts. When Harry puts the hat on, it doesn't sort him automatically. It perceives potential in him for both Slytherin and Gryffindor and leaves the choice to him. Those 2 houses represent 2 completely opposite answers to the story's moral question. Slytherin, power and legacy, belonging through bloodline and status, and Gryffindor, courage and loyalty, belonging through the values that you choose. Harry chooses Gryffindor. You see, Rowling simply holds up both options through the hat and lets Harry's choice says everything. And that's the moral complication. The second key moment is the psychological complication. And this one tests the psychological need, which is the second half of your theme equation. The psychological need is the unresolved emotion that's preventing your characters from understanding and learning the moral need of your story. So if the moral complication is about the truth your story is exploring, the psychological complication goes one layer deeper, because behind every moral question, there's an emotional and psychological reason why your protagonist can't answer it yet. Think of it this way. Your protagonist isn't confused about what's right. They may even know the answer instinctively, as we've just seen with Harry choosing Gryffindor. But knowing the answer and being able to live by it consistently are 2 very different things, because beneath the surface, there's an unresolved emotion, a psychological barrier that keeps getting in the way. And that's your psychological need. And the psychological complication is the moment your story deliberately presses on that barrier, not through dialogue, not through inner monologue explaining the character's damage, but through a situation, a scene that exposes that vulnerability to the reader without ever naming it. Now, in order for you to build a psychological complication scene for your novel, there is one thing you need to know, that the psychological need revolves around one of 3 emotions: shame, guilt, or anger. Why is that? Because in psychology, these are the three emotions that create the deepest psychological barrier to growth and change. And each one creates a different kind of wound in your protagonist. Naturally, in this video, we're focusing on one example, so on one emotion, but if you want to deep dive into all three later on and discover which one fits your story best, then don't forget to watch part 1. In Harry Potter, the psychological need revolves around shame. More specifically, shame about where you come from, about your origins, about your bloodline, your place in the world. And that shame creates a very specific fear that no matter what you do or how hard you try, where you come from will always make you unworthy of truly belonging. So in Harry Potter, the psychological complication is Harry's first potion class with Snape. Snape singles Harry out almost immediately, fires question at him he knows Harry can't answer in front of everyone. Every wrong answer is a public confirmation that Harry doesn't belong here, that he's not worthy of this world he's only been let into. And when the pressure becomes too much, Harry loses his cool and snaps back. And as a result, Snape deducts points from Gryffindor, the very house he longs to belong to. On the surface, it's just a harsh teacher humiliating a new student, but what Rowling is actually doing is pressing directly on Harry's deepest wound. The shame of where it comes from, the fear that his origin makes him fundamentally unworthy of belonging here. And crucially, she's showing us exactly how Harry responds when that wound gets pressed in public. He reacts and he can't hold it together. Nobody names that out loud, nobody has to. That is the psychological complication. Now, of course, saying this in Harry Potter is one thing. Knowing where these moments live in your own novel is a different challenge entirely. So if you'd like help with that, feel free to check out the Dual Storyline Challenge. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, then drop them in the comments and I will answer as many as I can. Now, one more thing before we move on to the third key story moment is the order in which the moral and psychological complication happen, because it matters. The moral complication always comes first, and the psychological complication always comes second. And the reason is logical. Your reader needs to understand the moral question of your story before they can feel the emotional weight of why your protagonist can't answer it yet. If you flip that order, if you expose the psychological wound before the moral stakes are clear, then the vulnerability land without context is just a character having a rough time. Your reader doesn't know yet what it means. Moral first, psychological second. Always. Now, I often get asked, can you have other scenes between the two? The answer is yes. The rule isn't about them happening back to back. It's about sequence. The moral complication must always comes before the psychological one. Everything else, it's flexible. Now, those two key story moments plant the question and expose the wound, but the story doesn't drop them there. It keeps exploring them, keeps pressing on them, the moral question, the psychological vulnerability, all the way through. And then towards the end, after putting your protagonist through hell, your story needs to bring back those specific early moments, so the moral question and the psychological wound, one final time. Same vulnerabilities, but incomparably higher cost of failure. No safety net, no time to recover, and everything on the line. That's what we call echo complications. And as you may have already guessed, there will be one echoing the moral complication and one echoing the psychological one. Because the name is pretty self-explanatory, you'll see exactly how they work in a second. That said, you might be wondering what the heck is supposed to happen between the psychological complication and the echo complications. These four key story moments work with whatever story structure you prefer to use. But if you're ever curious about what the method actually does in between, it's all on the channel available for free. Alright, let's look at Harry Potter. In Harry Potter, the first echo complication is the psychological echo. Remember Snape's potion class? Harry's psychological need gets pressed, the pressure builds, and he loses his composure entirely. That's the crack the story planted. Now, towards the end, that exact same crack comes back. Harry, Ron, and Hermione get caught in Devil's Snare, a magical plant that tightens its grip. The more you resist, the more you struggle. The only way out is to stay completely calm and think clearly under pressure. Similar pressure, same pattern. If Harry loses his composure again, the Devil's Snare wins. But this time, it's not a classroom. If Harry can't hold it together, Voldemort gets the stone and the magical world pays the price. The second echo complication is the moral echo. On the giant chessboard, Ron tells Harry that the only way forward is for him to sacrifice himself, and Harry has to accept it. it. At the sorting hat ceremony, choosing Gryffindor was costless. Nobody got hurt, it was just a hat and a choice that felt right. Now Harry is standing in front of someone he loves and he's learning what that choice actually costs. That the values he stood for aren't abstract, they demand something real. And accepting that right there is what makes the final key story moment feel completely inevitable. But before we get to that, here's another thing worth paying attention to: the order. In the first half of your story, the moral complication comes before the psychological one. But for the echo complication, that order reverses. The psychological echo comes first and the moral echo comes second. And the reason, again, matters. Your protagonist needs to face and overcome their psychological barrier first, that unresolved emotion, that wound, before they can finally see and act on the moral need of the story. The moral echo lands last because it's the proof that they're ready. And look, echo complications are not a nice to have. Every single best-selling novel uses them. And there's a reason for that, because after everything your protagonist has just been put through, your reader needs to see that they've genuinely changed, that the growth is real. Echo complications are what makes that visible and what makes the next key story moment feel completely earned, the ultimate moral dilemma. Now, this is the moment where all of that growth, everything that your protagonist has been through, gets tested in a single impossible choice. And here's what makes it different from any other difficult decision in your story. It's not a choice between right and wrong, it's a choice between two things your protagonist genuinely wants. Two values, two desires that have been pulling them in opposite directions the entire story. And in this one moment, they can only have one. What also makes it so powerful, what makes the reader feel it rather than just observe it, is that this choice isn't one your protagonist goes looking for. It's imposed on them by a key character, either a positive key character or a negative one. Let me show you what this looks like in Harry Potter. Throughout the entire story, Harry is pulled between two desires. The first, to belong, to find his family, his people, his place in the world. The second, to do what is right, no matter the cost. Those two desires have been running through every scene, every choice, every complication. Now, right before the final climax, Voldemort, the negative key character, confronts Harry directly. And in that confrontation, he uses the one thing Harry has always wanted against him: his parents. He says, "Join me and I can bring them back. Hand over the stone." I'll let you think what that means for an 11 years old. Harry can have the one thing he has always wanted: his parents, his family, but only if he hands the stone to evil, only if he betrays everything that he stands for. He can accept, he gets his parents back, but he sides with Voldemort. Or he could refuse, he stays true to who he is, but he loses his parents again, and this time forever. Both options comes at a devastating cost, and that's what makes it a true dilemma. You see, in Harry Potter, nobody explained the theme, nobody lectures Harry what the right answer is. The situation does all the work. The reader feels the weight of that choice because they've watched Harry want both of those things for the entire story. The theme is shown, not told. Whatever decision your protagonist makes in that moment will lead directly to the climax of your story. If they act morally, their arc is positive. If they don't, it's negative. But either way, the structure is the same. The ultimate moral dilemma is imposed, the choice is made. What changes is simply which side of it your protagonist lands on. And from there, you have your resolution, the final pages. Now, everything that we've covered today happens after your protagonist enters the new world. But there's one more technique that best-selling authors use, and it happens even earlier than that, before the moral question is ever tested. It's called the theme whispered, and it's how the best stories plant the seed of their theme before the reader even knows what they're reading. If you want to discover it, watch this video next, or if you want to go deeper on positive and negative key characters and discover the framework that will change the way that you build your entire cast, then watch this one instead. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.